Hello my dear students, welcome to computer science class. Let us continue with our chapter input, output and memory devices. In our previous video class we have discussed about the memory devices. We know that the memory is the most essential part of the computer system. Herein the memory is being divided as the primary memory and the secondary memory. So in case of primary memory, again there is a classification, that is random access memory and the read-only memory. Whether it is a primary memory or the secondary memory, usually the memory and the storage devices are measured in terms of bits and bytes. And we have seen the various different units that are being used to measure the computer memory. These are the few units, that is in terms of kilobytes, megabytes, gigabyte, terabytes, okay, up to we have the brontobyte. So these are the few units we have discussed, and later we have seen the primary memory. The main memory is usually being called as the physical memory. Here the data has been stored in terms of, that is chips, that is integrated circuit, which is capable of holding the data and the instructions. Then we have discussed about the read-only memory. So what is this read-only memory? It is the memory chip where the contents are being pre-recorded into the chip at the time of manufacturing itself. Okay, so herein we can write only the contents only once and we can read the contents several times. And the ROM is a non-volatile memory. Non-volatile in the sense, when the computer is switched off, the contents of ROM will not be erased but remain stored permanently. Such type of memory we usually refer it as, that is non-volatile memory. Later we have seen the different classification of ROM. That is, we have discussed about the PROM, that is programmable read-only memory, where the contents have been written only once and we can write the contents to this PROM chip by using the PROM programmer or the PROM burner, and again it is a non-volatile memory. Whereas EPROM, it is a kind of erasable programmable read-only memory where the contents could be rewritten. That means the information could be erased and being rewritten by using the ultraviolet light, isn't it? Next we have, again this is also again a non-volatile memory. Next variation of EPROM is the electrically erasable read-only programmable read-only memory. Here also we can rewrite the contents, but it doesn't require any kind of ultraviolet light. In fact, it is being erased. The contents are being erased by exposing it to an electrical charge. Even EPROM is an non-volatile memory. Alright, next we have discussed about the random access memory. The random access memory, as we know that we can even refer it as a main memory, okay, that stores the data temporarily. So during the processing, the CPU will always fetches the contents from the random access memory first, okay, and it stores all the kinds of calculations, intermediate results, final results, okay. Once the computer has been switched off, whatever the informations or the content has been stored in the random access memory will be erased. Therefore, the random access memory has been a kind of volatile form of memory where the contents will be erased when there is no any kind of power supply, isn't it? Then what operations we can perform on this random access memory was read and write operations. See, so write is what? It transfers the information from the other devices to the memory, whereas read was it transfers the information from this particular memory device to the other devices. So therefore read and write operations we can perform on the random access memory. Then we have discussed the types of random access memory. We have types of random access. The first we had discussed about the static random access memory. Next we have discussed about the dynamic random access memory. So the dynamic random access memory needs to be continuously refreshed because it is being made up of the transistors and the capacitor. Capacitors, it frequently needs the electrical power supply it needs. So continuously if you are supplying the power supply, then it can hold the contents. So once the power supply is being lost, so it will lose all its content. So we need to keep on continuously refreshing the dynamic random access memory. Whereas in case of static memory, it is made up of the transistor and the bilatching circuitry. Okay, it doesn't require any kind of continuous refreshing. Apart from that, we have seen the SDRAM, that is synchronous dynamic random access memory. So herein actually the SDRAM or the DDR-RAM, they are all been associated with a clock signal that has been present onto the motherboard. So this SDRAM, that is synchronous dynamic random access memory, will transfer the data only at the rising edge of this clock signal, whereas the double data rate random access memory will transfer its data both at the rising edge as well as the falling edge. Therefore the double data rate random access memory is quite fastest kind of random access memory. We have a different double data rate random access memory, like we have DDR SDR RAM 1. Okay, we are having DDR SDRAM 2, we are having DDR3, we are having DDR4. Okay, different variations we are having under the double data rate random access memory. And finally we had discussed about the EDO. It is a kind of random access memory that improves the time to read from the memory on the faster microprocessor. That means, see, usually the more the fast the contents are being read by the CPU, the more the fast it will try to execute its instructions. So the more the fast it will try to execute its instruction, the performance of your computer will be very high. So these were the concepts that we had discussed in our previous classes. So today we shall discuss about secondary storage devices. So herein, why we need the secondary storage? We know that the primary memory or the main memory can store the data temporarily, but we want those devices wherein we can use the data, wherein we can use the information for the later purpose or in future purpose we might use. So mainly these secondary storage will provide you the backup storage. Okay, these secondary storage devices are used to transmit the data from one computer system to the another computer system. Either immediately you can transmit, or at the later time also you can transmit by using some external devices. All right, so this provides a mechanism for storing the large amount of data for a long period of time. You can store your data into these secondary storage devices. Some of the examples of secondary storage devices might be your hard disk, okay, your magnetic tapes, floppy disk, your CD-ROM, your USB flash drive. So these are the few of the examples, okay, wherein the secondary storage devices are. They will help you to store lot amount of amount of memory into it with a very less expense. All right, so herein let us discuss the one by one secondary storage devices. First we shall discuss about the hard disk. So what is a hard disk? Hard disk is a magnetic disk onto which we can store the computer data. So this hard disk, we all know that hard disk is a kind of the direct access storage medium. So herein what happens, direct access storage medium in the sense, herein you can store the data and retrieve the data randomly. Suppose in your hard disk you have n number of movies you can have songs, audio files, video files, any documents you want, you can have. Okay, randomly if you want to play any song, then this hard disk will support for that, because it's a direct access storage medium. You can store and you can retrieve the contents, okay, randomly. That means randomly, suppose you have 100 songs, so you may randomly wish to play the 50th song. So it will allow you to directly to jump to that particular location and try to play that particular audio or the video song. So that is why this hard disk is a kind of magnetic disk. You can see here, this is a hard disk. This is an internal weave actually. So this hard disk is a type of magnetic disk which allows you to store the data onto it. Okay, so this magnetic disk consists of high speed rotating surface that has been, it is actually been coated with the magnetic recording medium. Actually this disk is actually coated with a magnetic recording medium, and it will be continuously rotating with a high speed. All right, so this rotating surface which you are able to see here, it's a kind of round flat plate we are having. All right, see, at the time of writing the data, that means at the time you want to store the contents. So at the time of writing the data, the write head will magnetizes the particles either onto the north or the south pole. See, whenever we try to copy the contents into our hard disk, what happens? Those when we copy the signals, we know that the computer can understand only the data in terms of zeros and ones, isn't it? So it will convert all it into the magnetized particles, and it will store, either some particles will be stored at the north end, and either they may store the data at the south poles. So at the time of reading, what happens? The read head will convert all that magnetic polarizations, and then it will convert as a sequence of pulses. Sequence of pulses means where the data is in terms of zeros and ones. So let me show you here. You can see here, this is actually the magnetic disk. It's a round flat surface which will be rotating with a high speed. See here, at the time when we write the contents to this particular hard disk, okay, that is when we try to store something into hard disk, that is called as write operation. Okay, so when we perform the write operation, when the data comes, the data will be, it will be converted. It will be in the form of magnetizing the particles. It will be in terms of particles. Those particles will be arranged either in the north pole, or they may arranged in the south pole. All right, so at the time of reading the contents, what these particles are being stored, no, they will be converted as the sequence of pulses, where the data will be in terms of zeros and ones. So this, both the read head and the write head, you can see these are the read head and write head. Actually this is a spindle, this is a arm. If at all, if you want to write anything, you have to use the write head. If you want to read the contents in the sense, if you want to play the 50th song, that means already that song is there. Okay, it has been there onto your disk, and you are at that particular location, you are trying to play that song, means that is a read operation. Suppose if you want to copy the song, okay, from your some other device to your hard disk, if you want to copy it, then you are moving the contents to your hard disk. That operation we call it as write. In order to perform the read or the write, okay, we have to use the read head or the write head. So these are the read head or the write head. So both these read head and the write head are being combined into a single unit called as head unit. So these two, read and write head, they are being combined into a single unit known as the head unit. So there may be more than one read or the write head. Alright, I hope you are understanding the basic concept of the hard disk. Now let us see how the data is being arranged onto the hard disk. You can see here this image. See here, actually the data is being arranged as a series of concentric circles. Can you see here? So the data is being arranged in the terms of concentric circle or concentric ring, what you can say. See here, so many rings we are having, and each one of the ring is being referred to as tracks. Can you see here? It has been clearly shown. So how the data has been arranged? The data has been arranged wherein the data is in the form of sequence of pulses. Actually, sequence of pulses means zeros and ones. Can you see this blank one is referred to as 0. This indicate blue color is referred to as 1. So this is bit wise. Always the data will be stored in the sequence of pulses wherein the data is in terms of zeros and ones. So this is 0, this is 1. So in that combination, now how the data has been stored in terms of concentric ring. So this is actually the ring. So each one ring we are actually referring as a tracks. Alright. So these tracks are being further subdivided into number of sectors. Each one of the sector hold a specific number of data elements. Okay, that means each one of this particular sector. Now this is one sector. Okay, this is one sector, this is one sector, this is one sector. Okay, wherein it is shaded, no, this is one sector. Again, if you are shading it here, again this would be the second sector, like that. So each one of the sector is consisting of specific number of data in terms of bytes or in terms of characters it may consist of. Then what exactly the sector is? The smallest unit that can be written or read, we can say it as a sector. The smallest unit wherein we can write the contents onto your disk, or where we can read the contents from your disk, we refer it that as a sector. That means your read or the write head, if it is positioned here, if you click onto the write operations, means the contents will be stored onto your hard disk. If at all, if you use the read options, already if the content is there onto your hard disk, and if you want to perform the read operation, then the read unit, okay, will position to that particular sector where that 50th song is there. It will place, and then it will read all the contents. That's how you are able to hear the audio or the video songs or whatever that a file might be. All right, so therefore the smallest unit that could be read or written onto the disk, we refer it as a sector. See, both the arrangements of the tracks as well as the sector onto the disk, we actually refer it as the format. I repeat, the arrangement of these tracks and the sector, we refer it as a format. See, once the read or write request has been received by the disk unit, that means once the user provides the read or the write, okay, command to the hard disk, it will it will receive the read or write request by the user. Okay, that time there will be certain delay until the required sector reaches the read or write head. See here, we have so many sectors here. Maybe whatever the audio file you have chosen, maybe that audio file content is there in this particular sector, maybe somewhere here. So whenever the user gives the command and whenever the disk receives the command, maybe in terms of read or write, so there is certain delay, okay, until this particular sector reaches this particular read or write head. See, once the sector comes under read or write head, that time the read operation will perform, or either the write operations will be performed depending upon what command is being given. So that delay what it has been caused, we refer it as an rotational latency. See here, whenever you click on to some audio file or the video file, it takes certain fraction of seconds to play that song. We may not see it. So if you want, you can just play a song and see a fraction of second, you can feel the delay. Why that delay is there? So the read or the write head has to specifically point to particular sector where that particular content is being placed. So that delay we actually refer it as what? Rotational latency. Alright. Now as the disk rotates, actually the read or write head will move to the correct track and fetch the desired data. So this flat rotating magnetic disk will be continuously, it will be rotating. All right, so whenever the request has been received by this disk unit, read or write, it will actually perfectly, it will move to the particular track. In that it will go to the particular sector where that particular content has been there, and then it will try to fetch that content and it will start playing that content for you. So this is how the actual mechanism take place. Now how do we calculate the storage capacity of the disk? So we calculate the storage capacity of the disk by this particular formula here. Look at here. The storage capacity is the total number of tracks into the total number of sectors into the bytes per sector. As I said, each one of the sector will hold certain specific number of data elements wherein the data will be in terms of bytes. I already said what is byte. 1 byte that equals to 8 bits. Am I right? So we have different units, isn't it? So the total number of tracks into the total number of sectors into the total number of bytes per sector into the number of read or write heads onto that particular disk. We refer by this we can calculate the storage capacity of the disk. I hope you are able to understand. Now herein we have two more different formulas, that is seek time and the average time. So what is the seek time? See here, The seek time is nothing but it is a time required to position the read or write head to a particular location. So see, as I said, once the disk unit gets the command either to read or write specific track in that specific sector, it has to position to that particular point. So okay, that time we call it as actually what? The seek time. It is the time required to position the read or write head onto that specific location. Next we have the access time. What is this access time? The average time that is taken to reach to that particular storage location and obtain its content. See here, whenever we reach to the particular sector, maybe here your data is there. See, that average time that has been taken to reach to this particular location and then start playing that particular audio or the video song or whatever the file might be, the time that is being taken, average time, we call it as an access time. And what did we discuss about the seek time? That is the time taken to locate this particular read or write head to this particular location. That is, we call it as seek time. I hope you are able to understand the concept. So usually the disk, as we said, the disk can rotate at a high speed, that is about 80,000 RPM. That means 80,000 revolutions per minute it can make. So usually the storage capacity of the hard disk will be in terms of gigabytes. I hope you are able to clearly understand the concept of hard disk. Now let us discuss the next secondary storage device, that is magnetic tape. So what is this magnetic tape? In earlier days they were using this magnetic tape. Now almost we are using the very high gain computers in order to store the data, like supercomputers, mainframe computers. They are still using the magnetic tape to store the data. So this is a kind of recording medium that contains a very thin tape, okay, coating with a fine magnetic strip, okay, that is used to record the digital data. I repeat, the magnetic tape is consisting of recording medium that contains a very thin tape, but the tape is being coated with a fine magnetic strip that is specially used to record the digital data. Digital data in the sense where the data is in terms of zeros and ones here. Okay, if you are able to see here, this actually magnetic tape, it is a strip of plastic that has been coated with a magnetic recording medium. Here the bits are being recorded as the magnetic spots. Can you see here the spots? This is how exactly the data will be stored onto the disk. Okay, that is wherein, can you see the small minute dots here? So actually this is one track, what you are able to see. This track has been actually again divided into the sectors. Each one of the sector will be holding some specific number of bytes or the characters. The same thing here also in case of magnetic tape also. So now this is a kind of strip of plastic. So here the bits are being recorded in terms of magnetic space along with the several tracks. Usually 7 to 9 bits are being recorded simultaneously in order to form one single character along with a parity bit. So to form a one character at a time, 7 to 9 bits are being recorded to form a single character. Alright, and here also we have read or write. Can you see the head unit here? So what is a head unit? Head unit consists of both the read and write head, isn't it? Combiningly we call it as head unit. So read or write heads have been mounted onto the each track. Can you see here? So the read and head, it has been mounted on each track. Here also it has been mounted. Here also it has been mounted, isn't it? So read or write heads are being mounted on each track so that the data could be recorded and read as a sequence of characters. Alright. Now data has been stored in terms of frames across the width of the tape. That means what? You can see here. The width of the tape is, the width of this tape is this much, right? So the data has been recorded, okay, as per across the complete width of the tapes, where these frames are being grouped into blocks and they are being separated by each other by the blocks here. You can see here, clear picture. Actually the data has been recorded across the several tracks here. Okay, herein the frames, so this is, you can call it as one frame. Okay, this is one frame. So each of the frame are being, separated by a gap. Can you see the line here? So it is being separated by the gaps here. So magnetic tape, it is a kind of serial access medium. It's not a direct access medium. It is a serial access medium which has been similar to the audio cassette. And so the data cannot be randomly located. The disadvantage here is it is a serial access medium where you need to forward it or you need to rewind in order to play particular song. Suppose if you are having 10 songs and if you want to play the 5th song, then you need to forward it and reach to that particular location. Suppose if you are playing right now 9th song and if you want to go back to the second, you need to rewind it. So this is how the magnetic tape is. So it is actually again a recording medium that consists of a thin tape where it is a strip is a kind of plastic coated with magnetic recording medium. This is a serial access medium. Therefore, we cannot directly locate the data. We cannot directly access the data and we cannot play it randomly. I hope you are able to understand the concept about the magnetic tape reader. Okay. So, this is how the magnetic tape. Okay. So, these you can see here. Here they have actually placed the magnetic. These are the early versions of the systems, how they were using the magnetic tapes to record the data. I hope the concept is clear. So with few more secondary storage devices we shall discuss in our next class. Thank you, students.